You've gone. I'm making sure I've covered the. Yep, the hobos come in. You get the headquarters. Oh, before we get into your Mike Force era, uh, did you not hook up with a individual that y'all had run out of town who had gone down to Fourth Division thinking
Okay,
he
yeah.
was
When I told you that the platoon sergeant said he had a project for me for a week or two, I said okay. So I was what it was. They took a 1-0 me, an op sergeant, a commo guy, and a weapons and a medic, and we were sent down to the Fourth Division to help them get their LRP company up and sort it out. And so I was, we were putting together lesson plans and scheduling and organizing SOPs and stuff. And their commander was a captain who was absent doing something. And we were there for about 3 days and actually getting ready to start the training program when he shows up. And this captain apparently had convinced the Fourth Division that he was Mr. Recon and knew all about it because he'd been in Special Forces Recon. And it was the same captain that we'd kicked out of Omega. And he took one look at us, me in particular, because he knew I knew him and I knew he knew me. And he went down to the brigade they were supporting, and told them they didn't need our help. He knew everything we did. And so that's when I was going back to Khantoum. We got a ride back to the PLEIKU Mike Force compound. And there's a chopper pad there that served both the Mike Force and the C team. And to get a ride back up to Khantoum. And I'm standing out there on the pad. And this Sergeant Major Lisi walks up to me and he says, "Is your name Elmore?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, come with me." I said, "No, I'm supposed to go to Khantoum." He says, "Nope, they gave you to me. I need a replacement for Martinez." And a guy named Guadalupe Martinez was a buddy of mine, had been killed in action just before that. And they needed a replacement for him. And I became the first platoon leader for Lieutenant Meisner's Mike Force Company.
Wow. And what corps and where was this Mike Force?
The 2-corps Mike Force out of PLEIKU. We were based in PLEIKU. Is V20 is the team designation. And later on, the Mike Force expanded to have a company in Khantoum and another company down in Quinyon. They were all basically designed, those companies were designed to augment the A teams in that area. Because our job was a reaction force or to patrol or to augment camps under construction or under threat.
I swear I had that. I was looking up. So, and also an interesting fact with the Mike Force is that I don't know if everyone knows, but y'all also had Australians in the Mike Force.
Yeah, Omega. When I got to Omega, we had Australians from the Australian Army training team in Vietnam. Most of these guys were SAS, Special Air Service, or commandos, and there was one of them when I knew him that was an infantry, just straight infantry. And when we started working across the border, they couldn't support us then, so they were all moved over to the Mike Force. So when I got to the Mike Force, I went right back into a bunch of guys that I'd served with before. In fact, in Omega, we had a reaction team that was I think now it's 2 Aussies and 12 Montagnards, which was a team that was designed to be like a bright light. They were to come in immediately and operate to link up with the recon team and help extract them. And so every time one of the things about Omega, every time you went in, you had a full brief back to the commander and those involved. And part of that brief back was the reaction team, and Danny Neville and I think Danny McClymans were the two that normally did that most of the time. Neville almost all the time. And they would give you a briefing on their procedures and link up procedures. Of course, it was all bullshit on the ground because once the first shot's fired, the plan goes to hell and the terrain dictates and the enemy dictates. But the idea was that my yards wanted that thing done. They wanted it, and they wanted to know everybody knew who everybody was. And it was professionally done. And it was a real confidence builder. And of course, I got to the Mike Force. Here's these guys that I knew and I had confidence in, that I trusted, and we worked together a lot. And I mean, I went on R&R to Australia, and they had gone back home, and they grabbed my ass and took me somewhere, and I don't know where I went, but we drank for a week, and they deposited me back in Sydney, and I flew back to Vietnam. But they were professionals. They were professionals and marvelous guys, I tell you.
That's what I like hearing, because a lot of folks don't realize that it wasn't just an American war. The Aussies helped out a lot. The Rock Marines were a bunch of tough, savage warriors. And also to tie in again with the Australians, the 1-0 school was for SOG was in the Aussie AO. So a lot of the chopper for final exams would be on Aussie helicopters. So,
well, yeah, that was a long time. I wished I'd have had a chance to go to that, for that matter. I mean, we were given a quick and dirty introduction to recon in in Omega, but later on, I mean, they created a formal course down there that really, I think, would have been great for everybody to have gone through. We just weren't given the opportunity. I mean, my timing was wrong.
With all the schools that were in Vietnam going on, did you happen? You already had Ranger School, but did you have any leadership any schools for that matter that you attended while you were in country?
Well, yeah, well, not those tours. I got to go to one school later on when I was in the 173rd. I went to the Phoenix course.
Oh, wow.
The infamous Phoenix program.
Are you? Is that one of the things you can't get into, or can you share a little bit about what that was?
Get into. I mean, the first part of it is that the Phoenix program was greatly misunderstood by the press and most people, and there were a lot of I think excessives involved with it, and depended on who they worked for or where they worked. But the design of it was basically to neutralize the shadow government that the VC had installed. And the fact that if they couldn't identify and neutralize their effect, then the next thing was to arrest and take them away, or in some cases they had to use force or ambush them and stuff. And then you had the mixture of local government. When I say shadow government, if you had a village chief, the VC had a village chief. What people don't, a lot of people understand, is that same shadow government would identify the most effective loyal people and target them to be eliminated. So if you expose these people to the fact that everybody knew they were VC, then that had a great extent limited their ability to operate and made them aware that they were targeted and they were being neutralized. Anyway, that was the goal. It was a political goal. And then, of course, you had to have the provincial recon units that were the action arm at province level, and they did a lot of the same things. And some of them were pretty damn. There's always personal local agendas, and we don't often understand it that well. That sometimes these outfits become private armies to somebody, and that's why we had what we would say a round eye as in charge of it. It was under the agency. And I was on orders to go to one of the PRUs, but the same month, the U.S. government decided no more uniformed personnel at PRUs. And after that, there was some Australians were able to go there. I don't know how they were sheep dipped, but I never got to go and be I worked Phoenix programs within my area because I was an intel officer for the 2nd 503rd for a while, and I worked with the district and province people, but I wasn't under the program itself. I just was part of the program.
That's very interesting. I did not know that. There are the guys. I see the questions coming in, and then we'll hit them all. But there were quite a few SOG men, especially from 69 to the 71 time period, that seemed to be working Phoenix operations a little bit.
Yeah, well, one of my best friends was in that thing. In fact, he's still one of my best friends. We talk fairly regularly. And he was in there before he went. One time he went back over again, and he was there the second tour. And like I said, well, I don't know. It's hard to describe, and no sense going into it in detail.
No, no. We're to cover this up so we don't have to get into any more of it. We're actually going to have we had a Force Recon lieutenant on this past, God, I can't even remember, the days are so busy. I'm so busy. He was on, but we're having part two. He went from Force Recon to reading a rifle company, and then the CIA contacted him, and he was like you said, he was the last uniform commander of a PRU unit.
Mm-hmm.
And weirdly enough, fates and SF worlds collide. The man who was brought in to replace him was none other than Jose. The CIA guy that
Prado, not Prado. He wasn't over there.
No, not Prado, but it's the other the guy that may have killed Che Guevara. What's his name? Felix Rodriguez, I think. I believe that's the one.
Okay.
I hate I'm mixing up, but he's a legend in the CIA, and but we're gonna have him on, and he'll Lieutenant Colonel Finlinson, I should say. We're gonna have him on to cover the PRU.
Okay.
But